Welcome, welcome, everybody. I am so excited for this very special episode because I have invited my dearest and truest inner circle. This is the first graduating class of the AstroBrand certification. These are most magical people who we've got to work together, not only through the certification, but over the past few years where they've seen firsthand the building and the creation of the curriculum of the AstroBrand Method. Each person has contributed their heart and their soul and their desires to help me shape this curriculum, this way of reading astrology. And I cannot wait to introduce you to each of them and just the magic that they are creating in the world. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. So today I wanted them to share their experiences as going through the AstroBrand certification process because it's a really rich process that includes training and mentorship and evaluations. There is a group part of this because I really absolutely believe in community and moving through things together. And attached to this particular video, we'll have individual videos for each person talking about their own process. We are missing two people in the original cohort today that just, trying to get people together. It's a challenge, but that's okay. We're going to work with everybody here. So the first thing that I want to do today is I really want to introduce each person in this cohort so that you get to know and love them as much as I do. The first person I'd love to introduce is Ishel Lunar, um, who is just a wonderful person who also has their own method of decolonizing time, getting in touch, and creating relationships with your own inner flow and embodiment. Ishel, would you please introduce yourself and your body of work and how people can find you?
And yeah, so I have been obsessed with time since I was young, being neuroemergent, not your neurotypical here. And my experience of time has always been quite challenging in trying to navigate the colonized world and, dominant culture and whatnot. And so, you know, astrology was very much a part of that growing up. Was fortunate to have parents that were hippies and very into the Llewellyn calendars and, all of those things taught me how to read those and whatnot. In graduate school, I studied with Rick Tarnas, and that really deepened my sense of archetypal astrology. And so that's really sort of the basis of the astrological work that I do. And then while living in Nicaragua, I was exposed to human design, and that really sort of helped to see the bigger picture of both astrology as our stories and that relationship between the planets in our charts and the energetics of who we are in the human design, and really being able to bring those two things together. So that's a lot of what I'm focused on these days, and being able to help people with their own energetics in their work and being able to find flow and connect with their ideal or soul clients or soul customers, as you call them, and really helping them to navigate, what it's like to be able to grapple with late stage capitalism, burnout, and being able to find that passion and love in what we do. So really enjoyed that. And so folks can find me at decolonizingtime.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ishel, for the wonderful introduction. Jen, I'd love to introduce you next. Jen is also a brilliant astrologer, a brilliant facilitator. They work with communities and teams, and I absolutely love how you integrate breath work into all of the work that you do. Jen, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure, thanks, Leslie. So I'm Jen Murray. I consider myself to be the founder and CEO using CEO very intentionally to stand for centered, energetic optimist of the High Vibe Healing Collective. And I help visionary leaders, embodied change makers, and people who are really seeking to elevate within, connect, clear, transform, and liberate their hearts through the breath. And I have a really beautiful global virtual online community that is the Third Eye Breathwork community, and that brings me a lot of life and joy to see people connecting with the moment they took their first breath and weaving it into what's inside of the collective skies in any given moment that we're breathing together in community. And I have had the deep pleasure of working with many people to help them to find their own heart-centered purpose and elevate what I like to think of as joy generation in a world that is fraught with a lot of hostility, a lot of pain, and a lot of suffering. And so I'm deeply honored for all of the communities and the teams and the families that I've had the privilege of working with to bring us into breathing new relational ways of being. And people can find me at the highvibehealingcollective.com. And yeah, come please breathe with me. I'd love to help you to know how to recalibrate and connect to the essence of your life force, which is your breath.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jen. And the other two participants that we have today are kind of a dynamic duo, April and Christina. I want to introduce April first and then Christina, and then I want you to both share what you do together. So April is also another brilliant astrologer, tarot reader. You have an amazing story of leaving a very rigid religious background and diving head and heart first into astrology and spirituality. April, take it from here.
Yes. Actually, love that spirituality is just infused within astrology, even though it is a science and it is, there's so much more to it. But the synchronicities are afoot because Christina and I actually met in Leslie's classes and we ended up being neighbors, essentially. We live a mile from each other. And I don't actually think our paths would have crossed. We're kind of in different stages of life. And so as far as just out in the wild, I don't think enough of our paths would have crossed to become the soul sisters that we have. So clearly there was a sacred contract there, and we definitely want to thank you, Leslie, for providing the way. I actually came into astrology only 5 years ago, maybe, and coming from a very, very high demand religious background, very rigid, and feeling the need to find things that felt uplifting in my heart, it felt uplifting within inside me. And I just started to kind of go down the path of spirituality rather than religion. And because I had another business, I had a different business. I was a doula for 10 years. And
That's right.
you were, Leslie, you were an astrologer for the business group that I was with a part of. And it just the second I heard you, I was like, oh, okay, there's something to this. And then as I have delved into astrology and learning and essentially you as a mentor, it has felt like a reemerging, a remembering. And so I feel really grateful because there was actually a couple years there at the beginning that I felt really drawn to it, but felt like a newbie, a novice, that it was just well, I can't claim astrologer because Leslie, right? She's the astrologer. And so I really thank you for the path that you paved. And this particular AstroBrand method honestly really deepened my confidence in my own skill set and my own knowing and my own gifts. So we when Christine and I met up, we just started to hang out more, and then it became this hey, we should do some stuff together. It actually, what was beautiful about it more than anything was that we could talk without having to explain ourselves. So when we got together, it was like, it felt like a breath of fresh air, because it was just like, oh, I can say astrological words, and you know I could be like, oh my gosh, you're in your Chiron return. And like, we know what that is. So, so it was really beautiful, and we loved spending time together. And then, ultimately it ended up, us business partnership, and we've been business partners for 2.5 years, something like that. So
I love that. Well, let's hand the mic over to Christina. Christina is such a beautiful soul, a powerful soul, that you were already doing branding work. And when we started working together, I just saw your brand open up. I saw all of the different methodologies that you were already inventing just really crystallize and solidify. So, Christina, I hand the mic over to you.
Thank you. And that has been such a gift of working with you, is pulling in these different things and really creating a new brand. And April and I being in business together, it really didn't take us that long to decide to do business together. And we've used the AstroBrand method the whole way. And so even though I have been in many businesses, many different industries, this has been so aligned, so beautiful, because we've practiced the AstroBrand method in creating what is now the Wise Woman world. And we have a couple of other partners as well. So it's really been a beautiful process. And really it's thanks to this AstroBrand method, which what it did for me in the branding work that I was already doing with people, it became a shortcut, but not a shortcut where you're cutting corners. It was actually a shortcut where the view was better, the work was deeper, and you got to the result faster. So it was like the most beautiful kind of shortcut work. And really taking my program, which was a robust and intense 12 weeks, I can do that in much like 3 weeks. And they've actually been able to get some of the same results that it used to take 12 weeks to get. And so that beautiful shortening of the process so that people move faster, more efficiently, and even more aligned to their outcome. Because what I'm here to do is help people embody their essence brand. And a business is an expression of soul. And so when that's soul expression in your business is actually aligned with your soul, as you can see in your chart, it's a beautiful thing. You are higher impact, higher profit, higher satisfaction. And one of the dearest things for me is feeling like I got off the hustle wheel.
Yeah.
That, I mean, okay, don't get me wrong, I still have to talk myself out of that. That's deeply ingrained.
Deep patterns.
It's so deep. And just being able to go, oh, look, there I am again, thinking that the harder I work, the more that's going to get me to my result. When in fact, the more aligned that you work, the better the result. And so, and having a business partner like April who understands this and we speak the same language has been able to really help me embody my soul journey and help others through our work. Just hold space for others to find theirs as well. And that empowerment piece, it's all within you. It's all written in your stars, literally.
Absolutely. What's so beautiful to hear, to reflect back on how each of you has talked about your journey and shared your work, is that, even though we live all over the world, right? Ishel, you're in Chiapas, Mexico. We had Irina in Norway. Jen's in Wisconsin, and April and Christina are in Idaho. We had Rosie, who's in California also. It's like, even though we've come from all over the world, even though we have all of these different backgrounds, what we all have in common was that love of astrology, that desire to want to learn that. And we also knew that we had this thing in us this signature system, the signature method that needed to come alive, that we needed to learn how to clearly articulate, and then how the AstroBrand method really helped support that birthing and that creation, and like the clarity of how you all talk about it and support your customers. Like it's so beautiful to see all of your different methods come alive. You're like how your language has gotten so much clearer in your own ways. Like you've essentially developed your own languages, and that is like my it makes my heart sing. So I know that April and Christina, because they live in close relationship to each other and they started their own business, the Wise Woman World, but you all have been supporting each other throughout this cohort. Can you tell me more? And feel free to chime in and have a conversation. We don't need to wait to pass the talking stick.
Yeah, I'll go first. It's been a beautiful thing because we have a Voxer channel, and especially when we were going through the certification together. But it's really amazing because we were diving into our charts together collectively, and so we were understanding each other and our gifts, and so really, and those gifts were able to like rise to the surface because of the encouragement, because of the recognition, because of it's like, oh, of course that's you. And so, like with Ishel, they are so amazing with the written word. And Jen, like verbally, like can just spout off absolutely anything. And so I've learned so much. And then like within ourselves, we're sharing articles, and everybody has a vast background. And so it's been really cool for everybody to kind of like grab things from previous things that they've learned and like bring it to the forefront and be like, oh yeah, I know this. And so not only did we learn AstroBrand, but we've learned from each other and our own backgrounds.
One of the things that I really loved was the reflection opportunity from each one of the individual members. And so cultivated through the community, through our calls, and through what we were studying that week, we got to see these reflections in similarity and contrast, and different ways of playing with the same frequency, and the different ways that that's showing up. So I loved the community aspect of all the ways that we could look at a specific part of the AstroBrand method, and then the different ways that we were playing with that, and then that inspired creativity. And that was just like nurturing the soil of creativity that was already the container, just all of us putting our secret sauce into it. And it was just super fun to experience the different personalities, the different experiences, the different soul work, and how that showed up.
Oh, so wonderful.
Yeah, as a double air, I'm not usually too much at a loss for words, but I would just say that being in a community of like-hearted and very astro-aligned practitioners was incredibly inspiring and very much affirming of just remembering that, there is a guidebook that gets created when you take your first breath, and when you can reconnect with that moment that you took your first breath, you actually get an opportunity to be more embodied and more aligned and integrated in the ways in which you move through life. And in particular, I think for me, being able to see people in spaces and places of the midlife journey, which I like to classify as age 27 to 60, because we know we all live at different points in time, and we have ancestors who only live to be into their 40s. And so we ultimately have these moments and opportunities where we get to support and share with one another that like midlife is a magical space, and midlife can build momentum. And I feel like it was a real joy to be in community of recalibration, particularly for me on my own journey, out of toxic hostile workplace environment and into like speaking what really does hold in my heart, but in my chart as well. So I think that was the key, was the community and having the opportunity to be with people who have similar heart and similar passion for astrology.
Yeah, we all wanted the same thing. We wanted that connection. We wanted astrology. We wanted to like achieve our goals. We wanted to like make a mark in the world. That's so beautiful, Jen. Thank you.
I'll just say, like, the thing about the group that was most memorable to me, along with all of the study, was the way that we all brought our projects forward and shared that as well. To see how we applied it within our own businesses, to me, was really exciting. As someone that is more focused on the like the true Astro branding with clients, it's really how I've applied that with 25 years of web and brand development and that sort of thing. So for me to be able to see the way that other people were applying it was really exciting. And then to watch the rest of the circle as well, the larger community going through each of those phases throughout the year and seeing how they were starting to figure those pieces out and put those pieces together in their own businesses. That was like for me the real meat, the chewy stuff. So I appreciated that. But I think the place that I got just a huge amount of enjoyment and practice was in the moon groups and being able to connect with really intimate groups once a month and be able to like sort of on the fly just look at somebody's chart and start to, because I'm a 4/1 and I have a lot of Sagittarius, and so I will study the hell out of somebody's chart before I feel like I'm really ready to like look at it. But that was like a very like immersive but fast experience to be able to start to do that and just be like, oh yeah, okay, and look at people's transits on the fly after they've like sort of shared what they're going through a little bit. So for me, that was really, I think, a good practice because of that sort of proclivity to like, study something to death. So
Yeah. Well,
I really appreciated that.
Your Aries rising, right? Like constantly sharpening that Aries rising to like have that improvisation, be improv, like just like show up immediately and make a snap decision. I think that was so amazing for you. What I really love hearing, one of my favorite parts that Ishel brought up was just like at the end of the mentorship, at the end of like the group part before the certification is licensed, is this part of the evaluation. And there are assignments. And that's what you were talking about, Ishel, was like everybody presenting their discoveries in their own way, their own projects. And my mind was just blown at all of the methods that everyone had brought through. Just because I'm a true believer, it's like we can learn, but then that's just theory. That's not applied practice. And so I wanted to ensure that each one of us was actually applying it and practicing it in our designed way. And so actually, would you each share a little bit about that one of your projects that you presented? Because these were amazing projects. We had the archetypes project, we had the sample chart reading. Tell me a little bit about your favorite project that you submitted.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to just give so much thanks for a robust certification program. It means a lot to me to go in and learn and to apply the information. And so this felt like a true certification course where application, deeper embodiment of the knowledge, and a true care from your standpoint of us understanding the material. So I just want to thank you. I've got enough certifications to wallpaper my house, and not all of them. Many of them have been an exchange of dollars for information without as much care to the application. So thank you. I need to say that for anybody who is looking for a good certification program that has a robust element to it, that has an applicable knowledge part to it, this is your program. If you're looking for, hey, if I just pay my dollars, then I get a thing to put on my wall, this probably isn't for you. And I don't think, Leslie, you're that interested in that either. But I loved all of the projects too. Again, this goes back to just seeing the different ways that people were using the information. I loved the final project. I loved seeing the gathering of all the information. So my project combined the art of toe reading with the AstroBrand method and astrology and putting those together. And I'd already started to play with that. I'd already done some of that, but this just deepened it, locked it into a very repeatable, deliverable, and teachable way, because I do teach a certification program for the toe reading. And so bringing it together with the astrology took this very beautiful, intuitive practice that I had and then put it out on paper and presented it from this more scientific sort of way. So I loved it. And I really loved hearing all of the projects that people did. It was really well done.
The toe reading, Christina's toe readings were just like mind blowing. So cool.
I'll share. Yeah. So I really have been spending quite a bit of time sort of behind the scenes with the neurobiology of flow, as an aspect of the work that I do, and tying that into the relationship that the planets have with that neurochemistry in particular. And so mapping the neurochemistry of flow to the archetypes of the planets. And that probably sounds really far out there, but really when you look at it, there's very simple connections that can be made, like Venus and the moon to serotonin and oxytocin, for instance. So oxytocin, I mean. So that was, I think, a nice way to be able to then, when I'm dialoguing with clients around their own stories and their own archetypes in their chart, and maybe the challenges that they're facing with flow, looking at maybe how they're relating with those particular planets, and maybe if they're having some challenges with a particular part of the flow process or that sort of thing, and digging into maybe a transit or a long time held limiting belief that's related to an archetype in their chart, that sort of thing. So yeah, so those assignments I think were really good to sort of really help me to think about how I could start applying that framework and that methodology into my work as well.
Yeah, I saw like your work just get so deep, because like you have just like this wealth of knowledge, like from so many generations with your Capricorn moon. You're like the wisdom holder, the wisdom keeper. And it's like, how do you kind of distillate and bring all of that information into like this really cohesive way? And like, it was so beautiful to watch you do that, and just also brilliant and mind blowing. It's like every time I'm like, oh, I need to talk to Ishel because Ishel's going to know about this.
So I also really enjoyed the archetype project because I originally kind of came into astrology, like I was learning it, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Like, was I just going to be a regular astrologer? Was I going to be a business astrologer? So I had been coming off a decade-long career of being a doula. And so birth was definitely, and that transition from maid into mother was there on the forefront. I have 5 kids of my own, and really what astrology gave me from the get-go was like, as soon as I understood like how to get a chart, I had all 5 of my kids in front of me, because I was convinced that I needed to understand them, and this was gonna help me. And absolutely, from our first breath, yep, Jen, these are our guidebooks, these are our maps, and so I approached it by really diving into parenting astrology and using the astrology to be better parents, understand our children and their needs. But the parenting, so applying the archetypes, the different planets to a parenting reading really actually helped me like really settle into what each of the planets had to offer for us to understand our kids. So when I do a parenting reading, I honestly, one of the first planets I look at is Saturn, because Saturn is the planet of maturity. And so to know where Saturn has been and the path that Saturn is taking really helps to understand the child and what what they already know and what they still are needing to know. And so yes, I would say the archetype, and each planet kind of presented a different archetype than the traditional like astrological, this is what this means. It's like it deepened into like, okay, this is how we shape you kind of thing. So it was really neat.
We have in Saturn, the giver of structure and form. So literally shaping. And that's really interesting because like both, so April and Jen, you both really look at the kind of family constellations. And then Jen, you take that to the next level, not just in family dynamics, but also like corporate and team dynamics. What was your project about?
Yeah, so I actually also chose family constellations for my largest project, and it was helping people to get back in touch with their inner child, like, which is really where we feel like that sense of joy and innocence. And a lot of what our world loses when we parent in authoritarian ways or have rulership that is tyrannical. So it's really kind of ironic and interesting. It wasn't necessarily that I was forecasting that I would be living in this world and in this land at this exact moment, wanting to just have people be like, what is joy and where is your courageous heart going to be most embodied? But that is, I think, what is called for. And I loved the archetypal practice because I was inviting people to look at the top 3 signatures of their chart. But I do think I'm looking at like relationality was a big piece, and the way in which you can just like find a daily hygiene practice or a short practice that allows for you to breathe just momentarily into the top 3 components of your chart, which is your sun, your moon, and your rising. And if you don't know that, again, like maybe now you do. I wasn't meaning to like leave people out, but Leslie would teach you an immense amount more around that. But I think that part of my larger project was to look at the constellation within my own family and figure out how our emotional processing bodies really held to the elements, and to look at what elements was missing. And so it was beneficial for me to understand in a nutshell, like understanding those archetypal components that relate both to nature and the elements, but also to the astrology, was exponentially beneficial for every reading I've given with families, parents, and then on teams. It's all the more important because you can only really bring yourself to work if you know yourself and you know how it is you show up accountable and authentic in the ways in which you're engaging with your contribution to the world.
Well, it's like, I love that you did that kind of introspection and like the self-awareness and the self-actualization by looking at your chart. And I hope that you were also able to find some self-compassion, because that was a really hard time of life to go through. And all of us being trapped in our houses, that was not an easy task. So, but I love what you discovered on that journey because you went through that. Yeah, these projects were super amazing. So really quickly, I would love to know, what kind of business shifts or confidence was created in your, just the way that you present yourself, the way that you present and work in your, in your leadership. What has changed for you there?
Well, I'll just start really quick, one sentence. I was really playing small, and that doesn't work for a Leo at the midheaven. And I would say that I would also say that like worthiness and the Chiron component in my own sense of relationships, but it also became some of my greatest medicine that I'm able to deliver.
Absolutely. I love that. Changing our challenges into our gifts and our medicine, and then Jen's Leo midheaven shining brightly.
I'm gonna just use a word. I'm gonna say claimed. I claimed it. I claimed that I was an astrologer. I claimed that I was good at it. I claimed my expertise, and it really deepened my gifts. It deepened my readings. It deepened it just like it changed everything, honestly.
Well, like for April, just claiming something is doesn't tell the entire picture, right? Because April, you came from a very like controlling religious background that nobody just walks away from. That your family was still practicing, and to be able to claim this very, very outsider way of accessing spirit and God, that wasn't just claiming, that was like, standing up in the force of something else.
Well, and I think the beautiful gift or like secondary gift was because this was a community. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't alone. I had so many people that understood and were cheering me on and believed the way I believed and or in some vicinity. So that was a beautiful gift.
And I just have to say that's something that I have seen and just loved watching April, just because we are so close, is just watching her claim it and then take off. It's really beautiful. And for me, the short sentence is confidence in the alignment. So I'm not overthinking and second guessing. Is this aligned? Is this aligned? It's just, it really satisfies my brain. So confidence in the alignment.
You just know. You just know. I love it.
I think there's something about sort of standing in my fire, and I think I had lost that connection for a while. So I really feel like it's much more accessible than it used to be. Yeah. As a double fire sign. Yeah.
Your inner flame is at the surface. You're lighting yourself up and lighting others up too. I mean, that's just so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Well, because, we had such a tight group and it was so amazing. And so when we think about inviting this next cohort of AstroBrand certified practitioners, what is either like, who do you think this would be perfect for? Or what kind of words of encouragement would you offer somebody who might be interested in this?
I'm gonna jump in. I honestly, I just do it, because here's the cool thing is I started with one like thought around one modality and kind of have evolved, and I feel like everybody evolves anyway. But more than anything, I think we are human, and the natural response to humanness is to make meaning of something, which astrology is very good at that. And number two, try to understand what we're doing and why we're here and all those esoterical questions. And there's such like a grounding nature in especially the AstroBrand method, because it gives answers around the like, who am I and what should I be doing? And it's like, hey, here's your framework. Here you go. This is yours, not anybody else's guess. And so I love it because it is completely kind of what Christina just said, like the confidence and alignment. Like it has taken so many of the guessing game out of it. And so regardless of your job or your direction, I just think it can enhance anything, honestly.
So I would concur with that. If you work with people, this is a brilliant way to understand yourself and how you work with people, and understand others and how they work with you. So it becomes a really beautiful circulation of compassion, curiosity, love, and respect, because you can just really appreciate your own and everyone else's soul journey.
If someone's just seeking an opportunity that allows for them to deepen their own cosmic wisdom and their own soul alignment, then I would say that there's a possibility and opportunity to like really get into making use of the framework. And I think that again, if it's something that feels like you're wanting to deepen an understanding of astrology and or breath work, in my case, like, I mean, I think for me, it gave me an opportunity to just deepen my own already practiced approach to the craft that I have. And it was just like a kind of like an icing on the cake. I think that if you're someone who works with any sort of human resources, and we know that like human resources stands for HR, I recently saw a person who I'm connected with in Culture First community, Jesse Jacobs, say that HR could stand for horoscopes and Reiki. And I would say that it certainly does. And like HR, if you are someone who's been consulting to try to figure out like what's going on in our world, like this is actually a framework that will give you a sense of like purpose and heart and an opportunity to do the healing that's necessary. And so I think I didn't say this, but Leslie, you gave me the wisdom to talk about myself as a collective healer. And so I wasn't necessarily talking about myself as an astrologer, but a collective healer. And I think that like when you get called into what it is that you're really here to contribute in the world, that is, I think, what AstroBrand Certification is offering you is the opportunity to really just show up and contribute with all your heart, and also know that you're being led by the stars of many, many past ancestors and all the future ancestors. And Leslie does a beautiful job of curating that connection, because I think Leslie holds you in whatever place you're in and allows for you to like bloom and unfold in oftentimes very unknown and unseen ways. And so I just wanted to do that additional shout out.
I would just say, I think April brought it up earlier, like not necessary. This isn't necessarily for somebody that considers themselves an astrologer. I think you're getting that picture from everything that we've all shared, because of the way that it can be applied to your business, what it is that, these other, natural inclinations that you might have, or interests or focus that you might have. It's going to deepen that. I don't think any of us have really talked about the mentorship aspect with Leslie, but that piece of it is like, you're going to go deep with Leslie, and she's going to open up spaces in you that you didn't realize were there. And so that aspect in and of itself around the mentorship piece, and the way that you'll be able to go deep with that, with what it is that you're doing and how you're going to apply this framework to your life. And then I think also, um, that that piece that you don't have to be an astrologer or think that you're going to be an astrologer to do this work. I just want to really sort of hit home on that piece, and that astrology is such a language and a tool for you to go deeper in the thing that you're currently doing. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you are somehow drawn to astrology for the way that it can provide clues or open insights, or, receive mentorship around, I would definitely say like explore that and think for yourself about how you can um, go deeper in what you're doing with the tools that astrology can provide for you in doing that. So, and then for the astrologers, this is like such an amazing framework for anybody doing astrology work to really have that sense that Leslie brings to the astrology community around the quadrants and, our top 4 instead of 3.
Top 4.
And how that so deeply informs who we get to work with. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness, Ishel, that what you said is just, it's so powerful. And, just thinking about like the mentorship and just knowing like, I'm so dedicated to all of you and your success and you living into your highest potentials. Like sometimes it's not comfortable when I might be calling you out when when I don't see you like tapping into, like when you're running away from the thing that you should be running into, and like I know that that's not always comfortable, but that's what a mentor does, right? And I come from this place of just deepest love and respect and admiration, really honoring your experience and expertise as a brilliant human on this wild planet that we live on. So just thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your stories and being on this journey with me. Again, just absolutely like the inner circle, the first ripple forward. And so I hope that these stories of these amazing people have inspired you. And if you're interested in joining the AstroBrand certification for the second cohort, let this be your calling. Let this be, if you feel it in your body and your heart and your soul, that this is for you. Like, I don't want to convince you that you need this. You already know. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.